It is Friday, January 27th. Let's talk PlayStation. So there are really only two news stories I want to talk about with you guys this past week, and so we'll go into our first one. It was recently announced that Sony for PlayStation 4, in terms of total game sales, they're now at 401 million software sales. That is a crap load of games. Now, to put this in sort of perspective in relation to the hardware sold, this gives the PS4 an attach rate of about 7.5 games. So, on average, every PlayStation 4 owner would have around 7.5 games. Obviously, that's a weird sort of decimal, but it's a non-average figure for an attach rate, 7.5 games, which is a lot, actually. So to put this into sort of a perspective, the PlayStation 2 at the same sort of time frame of when the PS2 had 50 million units sold, PS2's attach rate was at about 6.2. If you remember a while ago, PlayStation Vita actually had a very high attach rate at around 11 or 12 games per system sold. Which always was kind of like the one accrediting thing to Vita, where it's like, you know, Vita obviously wasn't selling all that well, but at least people that owned Vitas were buying games, and that's the one thing that always kind of helped Vita sort of stay afloat, and that's kind of still what helps PlayStation Vita stay afloat, is the fact that current owners are buying a lot of software. But that's certainly a good thing for PlayStation 4. I'm sure Sony's very happy with that. You know, it's funny because usually, you know, traditionally in the console, you know, sort of industry, console manufacturers would make most of their money through software sales, and it wasn't necessarily hardware that they really cared about. Of course, they wanted to get a lot of hardware out there because that would generate more software sales, but usually, you know, a lot of manufacturers would lose money on a hardware sale, but they would recoup it through, you know, multiple software sales, and having thus a high attach rate would be a very good thing for them. Nowadays, it's kind of a different. Sony right away, and well, Nintendo always earned profit on hardware immediately. They were always pretty good about that. But like Sony, Microsoft, you know, right away they would traditionally take a loss on their systems, but now actually that's sort of changed. I mean, PS4 and X1, I believe right away were earning a profit. If not Microsoft, definitely Sony was earning a profit. I can't remember exactly. I think it was like something small, but it was a very small profit margin, but it was there on day one, and Sony intends to keep that. They do like having money. What company doesn't? But yeah, they're totally proud of that, I'm sure. Now for our main news story, which, you know, this is kind of a big one. It's making the rounds for sure. You've probably already seen it at this point, which is funny because it seems like such a small, minuscule conversation that is just taken into a much larger context because this is the games industry and we have to blow things out of proportion. And even journalism itself, and, you know, grabby headlines and things like that. And I'm sure I'm going to have to title this in some bullshit way that makes it kind of clickbaity, but it's still conversation nonetheless. Anyway, this past week on NeoGAF, there was a thread regarding how Phil Spencer is playing the first few games on the prototype, you know, Project Scorpio or whatever. And another user kind of just chimed in and was legitimately asking a developer, and the specific developer was Thomas Mailer, who is the creator of Ori and the Blind Forest. Ori and the Blind Forest is a, you know, Microsoft exclusive. It's on 360, X1, PC. This user was legitimately asking the developer, you know, is Xbox Scorpio kind of like PS4 Pro, or is it an entirely new generation? Because that's something that's still kind of been up in the air. And I'll just read you the post word for word. Again, this is from Thomas Mailer. He says, all consoles now are x86 PCs, and the architecture will remain the same. That's why Sony was able to quickly iterate on the PS4 and make a beefier version of it. Scorpio is a next-gen machine with the added benefit that all your old games will still be compatible. From this point on, similar to PCs, you'll not lose your library when you buy a next-gen system. I guess since NeoGAF is confused, Microsoft will need to do a little work to make it clear to everyone that Scorpio isn't just a half-assed upgrade, which the PS4 Pro kind of is, but a full-blown next-gen machine that's just backwards compatible to your current library. So there's a few things in that one little NeoGAF post and one little sort of, you know, offbeat conversation that kind of is making a big deal. One thing being, this is kind of the first time where we've had somebody in the games industry working closely with Microsoft to sort of come out and say what Scorpio kind of is, which is that he is saying that it's a full-blown next-gen machine, which we really haven't been told that. Of course, a lot of us are speculating that Scorpio isn't necessarily a mid-cycle update, and it is like full-on a next-generation machine. So there's that, you know, our first official sort of murmurings of that. And then there's the fact that he kind of lambasts PlayStation 4 Pro by saying it's a kind of a half-assed upgrade, which I'm not going to fault him for that. And that's like the one thing people are kind of making a big headline about, and it's like, well, the guy's just kind of like, you know, saying something offhandedly. Maybe he does have some sort of weird agenda against PS4. He doesn't really like, you know, how Sony handled PS4 Pro or whatever. But that's, you know, that's besides the point. The guy's basically saying that's what Xbox Scorpio is going to be. And what's more interesting is that he's saying how Microsoft is necessarily going to handle talking about it and how they're going to explain what it is. And this is like the same conversation we always like kind of have, but now that we kind of have our first sort of idea that Scorpio will possibly be branded as a true next-gen machine, but at the same time, Microsoft has on record said multiple times that they want to blur the lines between, console generations. They don't necessarily want to make it seem like a generational leap, but at the same time, they want to propose that Scorpio is a substantial leap in power, and at the same time, there's the bold distinction that, and this is something that Thomas didn't mention in his NeoGAF post, is that a game on Xbox Scorpio is still going to inherently be an Xbox One game, and it will be playable on Xbox One. So, to imply that it is a next-gen machine is all well and good, but we have never really had a situation where you've had a full next-gen game, and you can play that next-gen game on a previous piece of hardware. The way it always goes is, let's say PS2 to PS3. A PS3 game is not going to play on a PS2 unless there is a PS2 version of that game, but that's not going to be the case. Xbox Scorpio is still going to be an Xbox One, and it's still going to play an Xbox One game. Like, it's really confusing because, well, it's not confusing, but it's going to be confusing to a lot of people because they're not going to, this is something entirely different for the games industry. So not only do you have the Sony side of things, where they released their console, their beefed up console a mere 3 years after it, and it's almost like completely identical, and it's only slightly more powerful. You've got the Microsoft side of things that is doing something similar in respects to like full compatibility. Your library is going to continue moving forward, and that's what I've always been preaching for the longest time, which is that these consoles are PC architecture now. They can release more frequently. You won't have to worry about your games library anymore. I've said that 1,000,000 fucking times. But you've got Sony doing sort of a mid-cycle update, which is like slightly more powerful. And you've got Microsoft, who's in a weird situation of doing a much more substantial leap. But, they got to sort of tell people now, like, hey, it's still, how, like, what are they going to call? Are they still going to call it an Xbox One? Are they going to give it a completely new name? I mean, because the software is still going to be sold. One game is going to work on both of these platforms, and one is substantially, is still substantially more powerful. But now I want to see what Sony's going to do after PS4 Pro. What comes after? You would assume PlayStation 5. And what you would hope is that, how are they going to handle the compatibility there? Obviously, it's going to be, compatibility is going to be, like, fine moving forward. It's what we've always talked about. But, is PlayStation 5 going to be a cutoff at that point where PlayStation 5 games will play on PS4 Pro and not the original PS4? Because at that point you'd be, let's say PS5 comes out 2018, 2019, let's say. 2019, 2020. At that point, you are, you're 6 years behind if you're using an original PS4. Is that where they have the cutoff, and now they say you have to buy either a PS4 Pro or a PS5 to play the current games that are being released? And since Sony's using, a numbering system, I think it's going to be even more complex for them to kind of get away with releasing software and having something on the box that says this will play on a PS4 and PS5, you know what I'm saying, or PS4 Pro and PS5. Microsoft can kind of get away with it probably because they do have the nomenclature of, using Xbox One. But that's what I was saying. What is Scorpio going to be? Is it still going to have Xbox One in the title? How are you going to differentiate that from the original one? Yes. That's all I want to know is I can't wait to see how this is all going to play out. This is the first time consoles have ever had this sort of full compatibility moving forward, having these frequent updates, and it's just I think it's gonna get kind of messy for a lot of consumers that don't keep up with this kind of stuff. Now, if you want me to make a comment about how he said PS4 Pro is like kind of half-assed, he kind of like indirectly said that. I don't give a shit. Like I said, at the very beginning of this conversation, it was like such a small, offhanded conversation, and you have to figure that small little sentences and conversations like that take place at developers and publishers all the time on a daily basis while they're like in my office or just shooting the shit at the coffee machine or the break room or something. These conversations probably happen all the time where they say, oh yeah, it's just offhandedly. It's not like they really give a shit. Oh yeah, PS4 Pro is just kind of half-ass, and Microsoft's actually like Scorpio's crazy. Did you see the specs on that thing or blah blah blah? Yeah, People get too worked up about it. Who cares what he said? And hey, there's like legitimate truth to it. You know, it only is slightly more powerful, but I think that's what Sony was going for. You know, like Sony doesn't care if you don't buy a PS4 Pro. They're happy if you get a base PS4 because that's still a PlayStation 4. This is just kind of how they're approaching the, you know, console cycle moving forward, whereas Microsoft has sort of a different idea. It is what it is. Those are some of the news stories I want to talk about with you guys this week. So if you didn't notice, the Spyro the Dragon Let's Play, it's done. We are done with that game. We beat it. If you were watching, you know, from part 1 and everything, if you were there for the whole journey, I appreciate you very much for being with me. And you may be wondering down in your pants, what's the next Let's Play? And I'll be honest with you, I don't know. I have no fucking clue what we're going to do next. I have one idea for a video we might put in between the next sort of Let's Play, so just to give me a little bit more time. Now, obviously, like, you know, we've done a poll the last few times. I'll do, like, a Twitter poll with a few options, and then you guys vote on what the next one is. The only thing is, I don't even have any options. I got nothing. So, you know, you're more than welcome to suggest what would be the next Let's Play. I'm kind of in a weird mood, like, selectively with what I feel like playing, so I may have to do the poll again just to, like, curate what it is I feel like doing. We may take a week or two break from starting a new game. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But all I know is I ain't got a clue. So I'll cross that bridge when I get there. Anyway, that concludes this week's episode of Let's Talk PlayStation. I'm Ryan Beneck. Thank y'all so much for talking with me, and I'll see you guys next Friday.